Ron was a quiet man who worked with machines more than people. He lived on a mining colony at the edge of known space. The colony was not large. It had a few hundred workers, some old factories, and a sky that was always filled with dust. Life there was hard, and every day felt the same. Ron was the one people called when something broke down. He had hands that knew the language of gears and wires. Many thought of him as only a mechanic, but inside he carried a dream. He wanted to see the stars beyond the colony. He wanted to know what waited far away, past the endless dust storms. One evening, after finishing his shift, Ron walked beyond the colony's fence. He liked to walk alone in the empty fields. The ground was dry, scattered with stones and old metal parts left behind by miners from long ago. While searching for scrap, his eyes caught something unusual. Half buried in the dirt was a round device made of a dark silver metal. It was cracked, and strange symbols ran across its surface. Ron knelt and brushed the dust away. The device was heavier than it looked. Its surface hummed faintly, as if it still carried life after all these years. He turned it over and noticed broken wires at the back. It was old, but it was not dead. He carried it back to his small workshop. The room smelled of oil and iron. Tools hung from the walls, and half-finished repairs covered the tables. Ron placed the device in the center and lit a small lamp. He leaned close to study the strange marks. They were not human letters. They curved like flowing water, sharp at the edges but beautiful in their design. "This is no mining tool," he whispered. His hands moved without fear. He opened the outer shell and found circuits that did not match human technology. The shapes were smoother, the parts connected like veins inside a living creature. Ron's heart began to race. He knew he should tell the overseer, but curiosity burned stronger. For hours he worked in silence. He cut away burnt wires and replaced them with fresh lines from his own supplies. He cleaned the dust from the crystal-like core inside. When he adjusted a final switch, the device released a sharp pulse of light. The lamp in his workshop flickered. The sound of a deep tone filled the air, low and steady like a heartbeat. Ron stepped back in shock. The core glowed faintly, and lines of light spread across the surface of the device. It was alive again. The pulse rose into the night sky, invisible to human eyes but not to the stars above. At first, Ron felt only pride. He had fixed something that no one else could even understand. But soon a weight grew in his chest. He wondered what kind of machine he had awakened. Machines always had a purpose. This one was not from his world. The next morning, strange things began to happen in the colony. The sky, usually calm with dust clouds, showed a streak of light at dawn. Miners pointed and murmured. Ships were rare in this region, but this streak moved with speed and power. By midday, the colony sensors detected an object entering orbit. It was no cargo ship and no human design. Ron heard the alarms while he was fixing a water pump. People ran into the open yard, staring upward as a vast shadow crossed the sun. A ship unlike any they had seen hovered above. Its body was black and silver, shaped like the wings of a bird. Light moved across its surface like flowing rivers. Fear spread quickly. Some shouted to call the defense force, but the colony had no weapons strong enough for something like this. Children cried. Adults whispered about invasion. Ron felt cold. He knew deep inside that this was because of the device he had repaired. The pulse he sent out had called them here. A bright beam of light fell from the ship to the ground outside the colony fence. The dust swirled, and figures began to step forward. They were tall, armored in plates that shone in the sun. Their eyes glowed faintly through their helmets. The colony leaders gathered nervously, unsure how to speak with such beings. But the aliens did not approach them. Instead, they turned their heads slowly, scanning the humans. Then, without a word, they walked toward Ron. The crowd parted. Whispers followed him. Ron's heart pounded as the armored beings stopped in front of him. One of them raised a hand and pointed to the device he had strapped to his belt. A voice echoed through a translator device, heavy and commanding. "The one who repaired the beacon. Come." The crowd gasped. Ron froze, but the aliens stepped aside as if making a path only for him. He wanted to run, yet something inside told him to follow. His hands trembled as he clutched the device. Step by step, he walked toward the beam of light. The colony watched in silence. When he entered the circle of light, the ground lifted beneath his feet. He rose upward, carried by invisible force. The colony grew smaller below, and the alien ship filled his vision. The moment he crossed into the ship, the light faded. The air smelled clean, metallic yet fresh. He stood inside a vast chamber where walls curved high above. Symbols of the same flowing language glowed across the floor. From the shadows at the far end, a tall figure appeared. Unlike the others, this one wore no helmet. Her face was sharp and graceful, her eyes deep like dark water. She carried a crown-like band across her head, and her robe shimmered like silver threads. Ron's breath caught in his throat. He did not need translation to understand her presence. This was their leader. This was their queen. She looked at the device in his hands, then lifted her gaze to meet his eyes. A strange calm spread across her face, as though she had been waiting for this moment. Her lips moved, and though the translator carried her words, the weight of them pressed into Ron's very chest. "You repaired the transmitter," she said. "You are the one I have been waiting for." Ron's world tilted. He was only a mechanic from a forgotten colony. Yet here, before a queen from the stars, he stood chosen by a device he had barely understood. The chamber inside the alien ship was silent. The queen stood tall, her silver robe flowing like water with every step she took. Around her, armored guards kept their eyes fixed on Ron, their weapons at rest but ready if he moved the wrong way. Ron held the device close to his chest. He could feel its steady hum, as if it was alive, as if it had chosen him. His hands shook, but he did not let go. The queen raised her hand, and the guards stepped back. Her eyes, sharp yet calm, remained on Ron. "You woke the beacon," she said through the translator. "No one has done this for many generations. Tell me your name." Ron swallowed hard. His voice felt trapped in his throat, but he managed to speak. "Ron. I am just a mechanic. I fix things. I did not mean to cause trouble." The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him. Her expression softened, though her gaze remained strong. "A mechanic," she repeated. "Yet you repaired what even my own people had forgotten. Do you know what this device is?" Ron shook his head. "I only guessed it was some kind of transmitter. I thought it was broken. I only wanted to see if I could fix it." The queen stepped closer. Her guards shifted but obeyed her silent command to hold their ground. When she stood before him, she reached out and touched the surface of the device. The glow inside it brightened for a moment, then pulsed like a heartbeat. "This is no common transmitter," she said. "It is a beacon of bond. It carries the signal of unity, meant to awaken when danger approaches my people. Whoever repairs it becomes tied to the queen." It is a bond written in the oldest law of my world. Ron's chest tightened. Tied to you? That makes no sense. I only fixed a broken machine. Her eyes held his, deep and unwavering. Machines do not choose. The beacon does. And it chose you. Ron wanted to argue, but the weight of her voice silenced him. He lowered his eyes to the glowing lines on the device. It felt strange to think that his hands had set this fate into motion. Before he could speak again, the ship trembled. The chamber lights shifted to red, and the guards raised their weapons. A sharp sound filled the air, like the cry of metal under pressure. One of the guards spoke quickly in their own language. The translator translated after a pause. A foreign vessel approaches. Enemy markings confirmed. The Queen's expression hardened. She turned to Ron. You must stay close to me. If they find you, they will not allow you to live. Ron's stomach turned cold. Why would anyone care about me? I am not important. You are now, the Queen replied. Because the beacon has spoken, and they will know. The guards formed a circle around them. The chamber doors opened, and they moved through a wide hall filled with glowing patterns on the walls. Ron could barely keep up, his mind racing with fear and confusion. He thought about the colony below, the people staring at the sky, the children hiding behind their parents. If this ship carried danger, then all of them were in the middle of it. The group reached a command room shaped like a circle. In the center stood a platform of light, where symbols floated in the air like stars. The Queen stepped onto the platform, and the symbols shifted under her command. The walls displayed an image of space outside. Ron gasped. Another ship had arrived. It was darker, heavier, built like a weapon. Its surface was covered in sharp edges, and red lights glowed across its hull. The Queen lifted her hand, and her ship's defenses prepared. The guards spoke in low voices, their tones urgent. Through the translator, one message became clear. The enemy knows. They come for the Queen. They come for the one she has chosen. Ron's knees felt weak. I don't understand. Why me? I only fixed the beacon. I did not ask for this. The Queen looked at him again. Her voice was steady, filled with calm strength. Fate does not ask. It shows the path, and we must walk it. You may not see why yet, but you are part of this now. The enemy ship sent out a beam of light. A message appeared, written in their sharp language. The translator worked quickly, but the meaning was simple. Surrender the human. Or be destroyed. The Queen's guards looked at her, waiting for her command. She did not hesitate. No, she said. Her voice carried both fire and steel. He is under my protection. The enemy ship moved closer. Weapons lit up across its surface. Ron's heart pounded like a drum. He had never been in a real battle. The colony's simple life had never prepared him for this. Yet here he was, standing next to a queen who declared she would protect him against forces he could not even understand. The Queen spoke again, her voice softer now, meant only for him. Do not fear. You fixed the beacon. That means you can do more than you believe. Trust your hands. Trust your mind. Ron stared at her, confused yet strangely moved. He wanted to deny it, to say he was just a simple man, but something in her words touched a hidden part of him. The alarms grew louder. The enemy fired the first shot. The ship shook as energy struck the shields. Sparks flew across the command room, and the guards braced themselves. The Queen raised her hand, and her ship responded with a powerful wave of energy, striking back. The two ships clashed in the emptiness of space, light against darkness, silence broken by the echoes of battle. And through it all, Ron stood there, holding the glowing device that had brought him into the storm. He knew nothing would ever be the same again. The Queen's voice rose above the chaos. "Ron, stay with me. The bond is real. And if we survive this, you will see why you were chosen." Her words carried a promise, one he could not yet understand, but one that tied him to her fate. For the first time, Ron felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. And deep inside, he wondered if maybe, just maybe, the Queen was right. The battle outside shook the alien ship like thunder rolling across the sky. Lights flickered, alarms echoed, and every wall in the command room trembled. The guards stood firm, but Ron could see the tension in their movements. They were ready to fight to the last breath if needed. Ron clutched the beacon close to his chest. Its glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat, almost as if it was alive. He could feel its warmth spreading into his arms. The device had brought him here, yet he still did not understand why. The Queen remained calm despite the chaos. She stood tall in the center of the command room, silver robe flowing like liquid light. Her eyes never left the image of the enemy vessel that hovered in the vast dark of space. The enemy ship circled like a predator, its red lights glowing with menace. Her guards spoke in their own language, voices sharp with urgency. The translator struggled to keep up, but Ron caught fragments. Shields weakening. Hull breach below. Enemy closing in. Ron stepped closer to the Queen. "Your ship cannot hold forever. You must pull back before it is destroyed." The Queen turned her gaze to him. Her expression carried both fire and calm. "We do not retreat. If I fall, my people will lose their strength. And if you fall, the bond will break. That cannot be allowed." Ron shook his head. "I do not understand this bond you speak of. I only repaired a machine." The Queen raised her hand, pointing to the beacon. "That machine is not only metal and wire. It was built with purpose. It was made to awaken when the Queen is threatened. Whoever repairs it becomes tied to her. The bond is older than empires, older than many stars. You are part of it now, whether you wish it or not." Her words struck deep inside him. He wanted to argue again, to insist that he was just a mechanic, but the weight of her voice silenced him. The ship shuddered violently as another blast struck the shields. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Ron stumbled, nearly dropping the beacon. When it struck the floor, a strange thing happened. The glow from the device spread outward in a wave. Light swept across the command room, washing over the Queen and Ron together. The guards froze, staring in awe as glowing lines wrapped around both of them, connecting them with threads of energy. The pulsing light matched the beat of two hearts as one. Ron gasped. He could feel something flowing into him, not just warmth but strength. A calm presence touched his mind. It was the Queen. Her thoughts, her will, her power seemed to reach across the bond and steady him. The Queen placed a hand over her chest and lifted her chin. Her voice rang out, strong and certain. "The bond has awakened. Do you see, Ron? The beacon does not make mistakes. It chose you, and now it binds us." Ron's chest tightened. He could hardly breathe. He had always believed he was an ordinary man with ordinary hands that only repaired broken pipes and rusty machines. Now an alien queen was telling him that fate itself had placed him beside her. "I do not know why it chose me," he whispered. "But if what you say is true, then I will not run. The Queen's eyes softened, and for a brief moment, her royal command gave way to something almost human. That is enough. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing to stand even when fear is heavy. The guards, seeing the bond revealed before their eyes, shouted words of loyalty in their own tongue. Their fear faded into determination. They believed again. The Queen had not been abandoned by destiny. She had been given an ally, even if he was human. The enemy ship outside sent another signal. The translator spoke the message clearly. Surrender the human. End the bond. Or be destroyed. The Queen raised her hand, her eyes blazing with fire. No. He is mine. Chosen by the beacon. He will not be given. Her voice filled the room with such power that even Ron felt his heart stand taller. The enemy responded with another barrage of fire. The Queen's ship shuddered under the impact, but it did not fall. She turned to her people. All power to the cannons. Strike with everything we have. Energy gathered across the surface of the Queen's ship. Blue light spread outward until the vessel glowed brighter than the enemy's red fire. The cannons released a wave of energy so strong that the enemy ship staggered back. The dark hull cracked, and one of its red lights dimmed. A roar of triumph rose from the guards. The Queen did not smile, but her eyes held the light of victory. Ron stared at the image of the enemy vessel drifting away for the moment. Relief filled him, though fear still lingered. The battle was not finished. He knew they had only bought themselves time. The Queen stepped closer to him. Her presence was strong, and yet he felt the warmth of her bond more clearly than ever. You see now, she said. This is not chance. The beacon chose you because you can give more than you think. You are not only a mechanic. You are part of something larger. Ron nodded slowly. He still did not fully understand, but a spark of belief had begun to take root inside him. The Queen looked out at the dark space beyond the walls. Her voice lowered, almost to a whisper. Our enemies will return. They will not stop until the bond is broken. But as long as you stand beside me, I will not fall. Ron tightened his grip on the beacon. For the first time, he did not feel like running. For the first time, he felt he might have a place in something far greater than his quiet workshop on a dusty colony. The battle was not yet won, but the path forward had been lit. A mechanic and a queen, bound by fate, now faced the storm of the galaxy together. The Queen led Ron through a quiet corridor after the battle had subsided. Sparks from damaged panels littered the floor, and the faint hum of the ship's engines filled the air. Outside, stars stretched across the blackness of space. The enemy ship had retreated for now, but the danger had not disappeared. Ron followed silently, his mind still reeling from the bond that had awakened between him and the Queen. He had never imagined his life could change so suddenly. One moment, he had been a simple mechanic, and the next, he was tied to a being of immense power and destiny. The Queen entered a smaller chamber, its walls covered in glowing patterns. She gestured for him to sit, and he obeyed, placing the beacon carefully on a table in front of him. She did not sit. Her eyes traced the lines of the device, as if she could see beyond its surface. You must understand what this device is, she said. Her voice was calm, yet it carried the weight of ages. It was created long before the first starships traveled this galaxy. It is called the Beacon of Bond. Its purpose is to connect those chosen by destiny to protect the future of my people. Ron frowned. But I am human. I have no place in your history or your people. I am not meant for this. The Queen shook her head. You are wrong. The beacon does not see species. It sees the heart. It sees courage and the will to act when it matters most. That is why it chose you. A human may be ordinary in your own world, but your kind carries creativity and resilience. Those are strengths my people have long forgotten. Ron's mind tried to comprehend what she was saying. He had always believed humans were small and unimportant in the grand universe. Yet here, a queen of a powerful alien empire was telling him he had value beyond his imagination. The queen continued. Long ago, my empire was threatened by a dark force. They sought to destroy everything we built, to erase our knowledge and power. The beacon was made as a safeguard, to call forth allies when hope seemed lost. It is a living signal. It chooses one who can understand, repair, and protect it. That person becomes linked to the queen, sharing her strength and her burden. Ron leaned forward. So, repairing it made me, what? Your partner? Your ally? Her eyes softened. More than that. The bond is not just strength. It is trust and unity. You are now connected to me in a way that cannot be undone. When the beacon called, the bond formed. You will share risks, decisions, and victories. And you will face dangers no human has ever imagined. Ron swallowed hard. The weight of her words pressed against his chest. He had always fixed machines, not fought wars. He had never commanded armies or faced enemies from the stars. And yet, the beacon had chosen him. Why me? He asked, almost in a whisper. Why would the beacon choose someone like me? The queen walked slowly around the table, her silver robe brushing the floor. Because even the smallest spark can ignite a flame that changes everything. Humans are clever, unpredictable, and courageous in ways my people have lost. The beacon senses that. It senses the heart, not the history or the size of a species. That is why you were chosen. Ron looked down at the device. Its soft glow reflected in his eyes. He had repaired it with his hands, with nothing more than logic and care. And yet, it had awakened something much greater than he could imagine. The queen raised her hand, and the patterns on the walls shifted. Images appeared, showing scenes of the past. A great empire of silver towers and flying ships came into view. Then darkness swept across the images, cities collapsing, fires burning, and countless beings fleeing in fear. This is what the enemy brought, the queen said. Long ago, they sought to destroy us. They failed then, but they remain in the galaxy, waiting for their chance. And now, they have found me again. They know the beacon has been awakened, and they will not rest until it is silenced. Ron's chest tightened. So, they are coming back for you? For me? For both, the queen replied. The bond is proof of hope and power. If they break it, my people will fall into despair, and the galaxy will lose a chance to resist their darkness. That is why they must be stopped. That is why you are here. Ron felt a strange mix of fear and determination. He was just a mechanic, but now he understood that he had a role larger than any he had imagined. The lives of many, the safety of a people he did not know, and the fate of a galaxy rested, in part, on him. The queen approached him, placing a hand lightly on the beacon. I did not ask for this bond lightly. But I trust it. I trust you. You repaired the beacon. That act alone proved your value. Everything else will be learned. Everything else will be earned. Ron nodded slowly. I will do what I can. I will not fail. The queen smiled faintly, a gesture rare for her. You may fail, Ron. That is possible. But even in failure, courage matters. Even in fear, action matters. That is why the beacon chose you. You have what many cannot show: the willingness to act when the moment comes. Outside, the stars were calm again, but the galaxy remained a dangerous place. Ron looked at the device and then at the Queen. For the first time, he understood the responsibility that lay before him. He was no longer just a human mechanic. He was part of something ancient, powerful, and alive. The Queen stepped back, her eyes scanning the corridor ahead. Our enemies will not stop. They will return with greater force. We must prepare. The bond is our guide, and together, we will meet the challenge. The galaxy needs both of us now. Ron held the beacon tighter. He did not fully understand what awaited them, but he felt a spark of courage grow inside him. The Queen had shown him a glimpse of the past and the dangers yet to come. He realized that he could not turn back. He had been chosen, and now he must stand beside her. For the first time in his life, Ron felt that he was more than ordinary. He was human, yes, but he had a place in a galaxy much larger than his own small world. And he knew, somehow, that together with the Queen, they could face whatever came next. The bond pulsed softly between them, quiet but alive, a living promise of unity and strength. Ron looked at her and nodded. The journey had only just begun, but he was ready to walk the path fate had chosen. The calm after the battle did not last long. Outside the Queen's ship, the stars were dark, but a new presence loomed. The enemy fleet had returned, larger and more menacing than before. Their ships moved like shadows across the emptiness of space, weapons glowing with red light. The hum of danger filled the Queen's vessel. Ron stood at the observation window, his hands gripping the rail. He had watched the enemy retreat earlier and had hoped they were gone. But now, he could see their numbers, and fear crept up his spine. The Queen stood beside him, her expression calm but alert. "They have returned," she said. Her voice carried no surprise. She had expected it. "They are stronger than before. They have learned from our first encounter." Ron shook his head. "I am not a fighter. I do not know how to handle something like this." The Queen placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "You are more than you believe. The beacon chose you because it senses strength, creativity, and courage. That is why you will help us. Your hands, your mind, your decisions matter." Ron looked at her, uncertain. His life had always been simple, filled with machines and repair tools. Battles among stars, alien fleets, and destiny were far beyond anything he had imagined. And yet, he could feel the bond with the Queen, a steady warmth that pushed away doubt and fear. The enemy fleet moved closer. One of their ships fired a warning shot that streaked past the Queen's vessel. Energy sparks scattered in the void, and the shields glowed blue under the attack. The Queen's guards moved to their stations, preparing weapons and shields. Ron felt small and unsure. He wanted to help, but all he knew was how to fix machines. And yet, he could feel the beacon's pulse, as if it was urging him to act. "Ron," the Queen said, her voice low but firm. "See the weak points on the shields. Your hands can reach them, your mind can find the solution. Trust yourself." Ron nodded, taking a deep breath. He ran through the ship's control panels, observing the damage from the previous battle. Sparks flew from broken circuits, and wires hung loose. The shields were strong, but the enemy had learned how to strike at vulnerable spots. If he could reroute power and reinforce the circuits, they might survive the next attack. He began to work quickly, his fingers moving over buttons, wires, and switches. Sweat ran down his forehead, but he did not stop. Every moment mattered. Every adjustment could be the difference between survival and disaster. The enemy fleet fired again, this time targeting the lower hull. The ship shook violently. Ron barely kept his balance, but he ignored the fear that rose in his chest. He focused on the circuits, tracing paths, reconnecting broken lines, and rerouting energy where it was needed most. "Faster," the Queen's voice commanded. "They will not wait for us to be ready." Ron tightened a loose connection. The shields pulsed stronger, and for a moment, the ship steadied. The Queen glanced at him, her eyes showing approval. He felt a small spark of pride. He was helping. He was making a difference. One of the guards approached him. "You are human. You understand our machines in ways we cannot. We trust you." Ron nodded, his hands still working. He could feel the energy from the beacon guiding him, steadying his movements. It was as if the bond between him and the Queen reached through the circuits, giving him insight and clarity. The enemy fleet attacked again, but this time, Ron was ready. He activated a power reroute, sending energy to the shields and boosting the ship's defensive systems. Sparks flew, alarms blared, but the ship held. The enemy fired again, and again, but each time, Ron's adjustments helped the vessel resist the attacks. The Queen's voice rang out, commanding her guards. "Focus fire on their lead ship. Strike with precision, not force. The humans' work will give us the edge." Ron watched as the cannons fired in calculated bursts. The enemy ship reeled under the attack, unable to anticipate the clever pattern. He realized that even though he was not a warrior, his understanding of machines gave them an advantage. His human ingenuity, combined with the Queen's leadership, was turning the tide. The battle raged for what felt like hours. Ron moved from panel to panel, adjusting power flows, repairing damaged circuits, and reinforcing weak points. The Queen coordinated her fleet with grace and authority, and together, they pushed the enemy back. Finally, the lead enemy ship broke formation. It retreated, dragging the rest of the fleet behind it. The Queen's ship, though battered, had survived. The shields glowed faintly, and the hum of the engines steadied once more. Ron leaned against a console, exhausted but alive. His hands were black with grease, and sweat dripped from his face. Yet he felt a deep satisfaction. He had done something important. He had helped protect the Queen and her people. The Queen approached him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You see now," she said. "Strength comes in many forms. Courage is not always in battle. Sometimes it is in thinking, creating, and acting when others cannot. You have proven your value today." Ron nodded, still breathing heavily. "I never imagined I could do this. I only fixed machines. I never thought I could make a difference." The Queen smiled faintly. "The beacon saw your potential. It knew what you could do when the moment came. That is why you were chosen. Humanity has a place in this galaxy, and today, you showed why." Ron looked out at the stars, the enemy fleet disappearing into the distance. He felt a sense of purpose rising within him. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but he had found his place. He was no longer just a mechanic. He was part of something greater, tied to a Queen and a people who depended on his courage and skill. The beacon pulsed softly on the table, and Ron could feel its warmth in his hands. It was a reminder that his role was not finished. More challenges would come, more enemies would return, and he would need to stand firm. but for the first time, he knew he was not alone. He had the Queen, the Bond, and his own ingenuity. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy threw at them. The enemy fleet loomed closer than ever before. Red lights glimmered on their ships, and the hum of their engines was like a warning that filled the void of space. Inside the Queen's vessel, alarms rang sharply, echoing off the walls. The crew moved with urgency, but there was a strange calm in the Queen's eyes. Ron stood near the beacon, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. He had learned much in the past days. He had repaired systems, rerouted power, and held the line when others doubted. Yet, this battle felt different. The enemy was relentless, stronger, and more organized. The Queen approached him, her silver robe flowing as she moved. "Ron, this is the moment we have prepared for. You must act quickly. The beacon will guide you, but your decisions will shape the outcome." Ron nodded, though fear still lingered in his chest. He looked at the panels before him, assessing energy flows, shield strength, and weapon readiness. He knew that a single misstep could mean disaster. "Focus on the weak points in their formation," the Queen instructed. "Their ships rely on a chain of command. Break it, and the rest will falter." Ron took a deep breath and let his mind focus. He traced circuits, adjusted energy lines, and recalculated power distributions. The beacon pulsed in his hands, a steady rhythm that seemed to encourage him. He could feel the Queen's presence through the bond, calm and guiding him even when the enemy fire rained down. The first wave of attacks hit the ship. Shields flared, energy beams cracking across the hull. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the ship shook violently. Guards shouted instructions, and the Queen's voice commanded the crew with precision. Ron worked quickly, rerouting energy to strengthen weakened shields and powering the ship's main cannons. He calculated the angles, firing sequences, and timing, using knowledge no alien pilot could anticipate. His human intuition and ingenuity gave the Queen's vessel a unique advantage. The enemy fleet struck again, aiming at the ship's lower hull. Ron activated a sequence that redirected energy to the reinforced panels. Sparks erupted as the attack hit, but the ship held firm. The Queen noticed the change. "Well done, Ron. Your mind is as strong as your hands. Keep this up, and we can turn the tide." Ron felt a surge of confidence. He adjusted the cannon's firing patterns, targeting the central ships in the enemy formation. The blasts hit precisely where he intended, disrupting the enemy's chain of command. Several ships veered off course, colliding or retreating. The Queen's guards shouted with excitement. Her voice rose, commanding their cannons to press the attack. "Now, Ron. Strike at the lead ship. Focus all energy there." Ron's hands moved with speed and precision. He calculated power flows, adjusted targeting systems, and coordinated with the Queen's orders. The beacon glowed brighter, guiding him, connecting him to her strength. The lead enemy ship reeled under the barrage of energy. Its shields flickered and failed in places Ron had predicted. The Queen's vessel pressed the advantage, striking again and again. The enemy fleet, seeing their lead ship falter, began to scatter. The smaller ships moved chaotically, trying to regroup. The Queen's voice rang out, commanding order and discipline among her crew. Ron's heart pounded. He had never imagined himself in such a moment, yet he was here, guiding the battle with his human skill. The bond with the Queen felt stronger than ever, a silent promise that they faced this together. One of the enemy ships fired a massive beam aimed directly at the Queen's vessel. Ron calculated the trajectory, adjusted the shields, and redirected energy with the beacon's guidance. The beam struck the shields, but they held, absorbing the attack with a surge of blue light. The queen looked at him, her eyes shining with approval. "You see? You are more than you believed. Your mind is a weapon, your courage a shield. Trust yourself, Ron." Ron nodded, feeling determination rise within him. He adjusted the energy flows once more, targeting the remaining enemy ships with precision. One by one, they faltered, engines failing, weapons going silent. The tide of the battle had turned. The queen raised her hand, commanding her ship to strike the final blows. Energy beams hit the enemy vessels with unerring accuracy. Ron coordinated each shot, adjusting timing and power. The enemy fleet broke completely, retreating into the distance, leaving only silence in space. The Queen's ship glided smoothly, its engines humming steadily now. The crew cheered quietly, but the Queen remained composed, her eyes scanning the stars. She turned to Ron, her expression softening. "You have done more than survive, Ron. You have helped save many lives today. The bond is stronger because of your courage and skill. You have proven yourself, not only to me, but to the galaxy." Ron's chest swelled with pride and relief. He had faced a threat far beyond anything he had imagined, yet he had not faltered. He had used his human ingenuity and determination to stand beside the Queen, guiding the ship and turning the tide of battle. The beacon pulsed softly, and Ron could feel it connecting them, a living reminder of the bond they shared. He understood now that his role was not over. Challenges would continue, but he was no longer the man who had only fixed machines. He was a partner to the Queen, a protector of the galaxy, and a symbol of human courage. The Queen placed her hand lightly on his shoulder. "Rest now, Ron. You have earned it. But remember, the galaxy is vast, and danger still exists. Together, we will face it." Ron nodded, looking out at the stars. The enemy fleet had retreated, but he knew they would return. He also knew that he was ready. With the Queen, with the bond, and with his own courage, he could face whatever came next. The enemy fleet had retreated beyond the edge of the stars. Silence returned to the galaxy, but it was not a quiet peace. The hum of the Queen's ship filled the corridors, and the crew moved cautiously, repairing damage and checking systems. Sparks still fell from cracked panels, but the immediate danger had passed. Ron stood by the observation window, staring into the vastness of space. He could hardly believe what had happened. Only days ago, he had been a simple mechanic, fixing broken machines in his small colony. Now, he was bound to a Queen, had helped defeat an enemy fleet, and had seen a side of the galaxy no human had imagined. The Queen entered the room silently, her silver robe flowing like liquid light. She looked at Ron, her eyes calm but deep with meaning. "You have done well," she said. "The bond is stronger now. Your courage, skill, and mind have proven invaluable. You are no longer only a mechanic. You are part of our people, part of our strength." Ron turned to her, still overwhelmed. "I only did what I could. I followed the beacon and tried to help. I never imagined I could make a difference on this scale." The Queen approached, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. "You underestimate yourself. The beacon does not lie. It chose you because it sensed your potential. You acted when many would have frozen. You made choices that saved lives. That is the measure of true strength." Ron felt warmth spread through him. He had always doubted his abilities, but now, beside the Queen, he began to believe in himself. He looked down at the beacon, resting softly on the table. Its glow was gentle but steady, a living reminder of the bond that had changed everything. The Queen gestured for him to follow her. They walked together through the ship, passing guards and crew who offered nods of respect. Even though Ron was human, he could feel their trust and admiration. He had proven that humans could be more than observers in the galaxy. They could be leaders, thinkers, and heroes. They entered the command room, where the stars outside stretched endlessly. The Queen raised her hand, and the holographic displays of space shifted to show the colony below. Lights flickered in the cities, and Ron could see tiny figures moving among the buildings, unaware of the battles fought above them. "They are safe, for now," the Queen said softly. "The bond ensured it. But we must remain vigilant. The enemy will not rest, and the galaxy will test us again. You must continue to learn, to act, and to trust the strength within you." Ron nodded. "I will. I have learned more in these days than I ever thought possible. I will not forget what the beacon has shown me." The Queen studied him, her eyes reflecting both pride and hope. "You are ready to embrace your role fully. The galaxy is vast, and your actions matter. You have seen the power of human ingenuity, the strength of courage, and the importance of unity. All of these will be needed for what is to come." Ron took a deep breath. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also a growing sense of purpose. He was no longer an ordinary man. He had been chosen, bonded, and tested. Now he understood the meaning of the beacon and his place beside the Queen. Outside, the stars shimmered like diamonds against the darkness. The colony below would continue its simple life, unaware of the dangers that had threatened it. But Ron knew that his actions had made a difference. He had protected them, not with weapons alone, but with his mind, courage, and determination. The Queen moved closer to him. "There will be challenges ahead. New enemies, new trials, and new choices. But you are not alone. I am with you, and the bond will guide us. Together, we can face whatever comes." Ron nodded, feeling a quiet strength inside him. "I understand now. I am ready to stand with you, no matter what comes." The Queen smiled faintly. "Good. That is what the beacon saw in you from the beginning. It chose wisely." They walked together to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly, but Ron no longer felt small or powerless. He felt connected to the Queen, to the galaxy, and to a destiny larger than himself. The bond pulsed gently in his hands, a living reminder that courage, skill, and unity could shape the future. Ron realized that his life had changed forever. He would never return to the simple world he had known. The galaxy had opened itself to him, and he had a role to play in its protection. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the exhilaration of purpose. The Queen's voice broke the silence. "Look at the stars, Ron. Each one holds possibility. Each one holds challenges. But with courage, intelligence, and the bond, we can meet them all." Ron looked out, letting the vastness of space fill him with determination. He knew the enemy would return someday, but he also knew that he was no longer just a human from a small colony. He was a partner to a queen, a protector of many, and a symbol that humans could rise to greatness when called upon. The beacon pulsed gently, as if affirming his thoughts. Ron held it close, feeling the warmth and connection between him and the Queen. He understood now that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was wide, full of challenges, but he was ready to face them. For the first time, Ron smiled with certainty. He had embraced his role, his courage, and the bond that had changed everything. The new dawn had arrived, and he was prepared to meet it. The Queen stood beside him, her eyes on the stars. Together, they watched the galaxy unfold, knowing that they were no longer alone. With the bond between them, and Ron's courage and skill, they were ready for whatever the future would bring. The stars shone brighter, as if reflecting the promise of a new era. And in that light, Ron felt truly alive, knowing that humans could leave their mark on the galaxy and stand alongside the greatest of powers.